New tonight, Gulfport city leaders taking up an ordinance that restricts parking in yards.
Officials say this tactic was a way to reduce blight in the community. However, dozens of homeowners say there's nowhere else to park their vehicles due to the size of their property. Stephanie Poole reports.
Gulfport City Council addressing community concerns after multiple residents receive a violation notice in the mail.
Where we took it too far were with people who do have single car driveways or driveways next to a property line and they don't have anywhere else to put them.
In Tuesday's City Council meeting, Mayor Billy Hughes suggests not removing the ordinance off the books, but modifying the language.
Repealed the existing section with some language that I had proposed to them to be more specific about how enforcement is to take place, what is protected, what needs to be spoken to.
The ordinance states parked cars in yards is a violation. Roughly 340 residents received a notice from a city code enforcement officer. But here's where most concerns are growing. Several homeowners say they simply have nowhere else to park their vehicles due to limited spacing in their driveway. Others say they move their vehicles every day.
This is a reset now. So the 340 letters that went out, they have been basically set aside. So we're going to start again because some of these residents that were notified, they have not been unreasonable.
Hughes reassures the problem is multiple vehicles piled up in one yard. This goes for broken down cars, boats, and rigs. He says people can park on the side of the road or adjacent to their properties.
The good news is had we had the ordinance taken off the book and nothing else, it would have taken away our ability to enforce the problem areas, the problem yards, the problem cars, by adopting this secondary component that was, instead of an amendment, they just made it new.
In Gulfport, Stephanie Poole, WLOX News Now.